a surprise sister who's the key to the apocalypse, and a doctor with an annoyingly lustful appetite. Even the most popular shows can misfire when introducing new characters. Gilmore Girls fans will never forgive April Nardini for dismantling Luke and Lorelai's relationship. The grumpy diner owner and the newly minted inn owner finally get together in season 4 after years of pining and filler relationships. Cue the entrance of Luke's daughter April in season 6. She stumbles into Luke's diner with clunky exposition about a science fair, and later concludes that Luke is her biological father. Luke understandably wants to get to know his kid, but he's entirely out of character when he hypocritically keeps her a secret from Lorelai for months after hounding her about honesty surrounding her situation with Christopher. Meanwhile, April's mom, Anna, is even worse, refusing to allow Lorelai into April's life until she's married to Luke, despite their engagement. Then, just a year later, she fights to have Luke's custody taken away for no reason, crushing April in the process. After Luke and Lorelai break up for a year when Lorelai gives Luke a marriage ultimatum and sleeps with Christopher, and the Netflix revival picks up pretty much where the show leaves off, despite taking place a decade later. Before showrunner Amy Sherman Palladino returns and properly orchestrates their long overdue emotional journey, Lorelai and Luke basically waste a decade of their lives. In Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the show teased Buffy's surprise sister Dawn, and Buffy's sacrifice for her sister long before her arrival, especially in the form of bizarre, prophetic dreams.
Miles to go. Little Miss Muffet counting down from 730. Great. Riddles.
At the time, it sounds like rambling nonsense. Then Buffy dies 730 days later to save her sister in the season 5 finale. For some reason, Faith is the one to tease the youngest Summer's kid, telling Buffy in another season 4 fever dream, little sis is coming. As it turns out, Dawn is a human embodiment of the key that the villain Glory needs to open the gates to every dimension and jumpstart the apocalypse. Dawn's arrival is made even worse when Glory feeds on brains, leaving her victims devoid of sanity. For some reason, only those individuals can see Dawn's true essence as the key. So now, in addition to everything, she's also the origin of a problematic storyline. Just 3 seasons later, after Buffy sacrifices herself for her sister, Dawn kicks Buffy out of their house. The departure of Topher Grace and Ashton Kutcher left a gaping Eric and Kelso-shaped hole in the final season of that 70s show, and Randy takes the brunt of the blame. When Josh Myers joined the cast in season 8, fans were quick to blame his character for the show's cancellation. Yet, if we're being honest, the series should have made its bow in season 7 with the departure of Eric and Kelso. It's no surprise that a show about a group of 6 friends can't sustain itself with 2 of the core group missing. Yet instead of bringing in someone entirely new, the minds behind that 70s show scrapped the original plan to recast Eric with Myers and created the new character Randy, a clumsy and deeply ill-advised attempt to fuse Kelso and Eric's personalities together, even going so far as to throw Donna and Randy together to mimic her chemistry with Eric. This choice really ticked off fans, and it was the final nail in the coffin for that 70s show. Joss Whedon apparently learned nothing from the reaction to Dawn Summers. In season 3 of Angel, the character Connor shows up midway and presents a problem for the Buffy universe's rules for vampires. Somehow, Darla gets pregnant after sleeping with Angel, even though they're both vampires and are both technically dead. The concept of magic can only suspend so much disbelief when it comes to the deceased having babies. The storyline gets even messier when the show establishes that Darla doesn't want to give birth and forces her to have the baby anyway. Darla tries and fails to abort the fetus multiple times, which is pretty gross coming from self-appointed feminist icon Joss Whedon. Darla eventually stakes herself to protect the child she's forced to have, reducing her to nothing more than a womb. And because Angel hasn't been tortured enough, apparently, Connor gets kidnapped and taken to Kortoth, where he's raised to hate his father and seek revenge, and emerges back in the real world as a teenager.
A couple weeks ago, he was wearing diapers. Now he's a teenager?
Tell me we don't live in a soap opera.
After awkwardly feuding with the annoying prodigal son, Angel fans finally thought they were free of the kid when Angel has Connor's memories wiped to give him a normal suburban life. But it doesn't last. Connor's memories come back, and so does he. The Billie Jenkins addition to the Charmed Ones mix is yet another case of a struggling show trying to revitalize itself. Rather than spending the show's final season on the core group of sisters fans know and love, Billie comes into play in a central arc where she enlists the Charmed One's help in finding her sister. To add insult to injury, Billie has the same power as Prue, an original and fan-favorite sister who dies early in the show. Plenty of fans are also still outraged that original series characters like Wyatt only show up for 2 episodes of the final season. In an interview with TV Line, showrunner Brad Kern attributed Wyatt's absence to budget cuts. And he also shot down the rumor that Billie was brought in for a potential spinoff. That hasn't stopped fans from blaming Billie for taking away screen time and resources from their favorite characters. In reality, it seems like budgets wouldn't have allowed for anything else to happen. Kaylee Cuoco was a relatively new actor, and the show had to do something to fill in the gaps of the many missing characters. In hindsight, maybe the show should have ended with season 7. Marissa and Ryan can create enough drama for themselves in the OC, without help from the local stalker. But that didn't stop the writers from adding Oliver into the mix toward the end of season 1 of the show, which had already amassed a dedicated fan base. Marissa meets Oliver in therapy, where he begins manipulating her, showering her with gifts, and gaslighting her into spending every waking moment with him. Knowing that Marissa has a bit of a savior complex, Oliver uses it to his advantage until he finally makes a move. Marissa turns him down, and he responds by pulling out a gun. Despite the show being relatively new at the time of Oliver's appearance, the hatred from fans was so intense that the series later addresses it in a meta moment in season 3.
I wouldn't have done it any differently. Except maybe Oliver.
By season 8 of House, the show had long since gone off the rails. In an attempt to keep things fresh, House incorporated a revolving door of doctors to assist the titular character in his various career-ending shenanigans. Yet through it all, no character elicited as much irritation from fans as Chi Park. There are plenty of awkward characters on TV that fans can't help loving, but Park isn't one of them. Just go on Reddit on any post where she's mentioned to find a litany of fans who skipped episodes and almost bailed on the show's final season after she was added. Even during her few likable moments, she makes everyone in the room uncomfortable, including the audience. And that level of cringe is impossible to tune out. Her character becomes downright unbearable when she continually sexually harasses Chase, thinking that every time he's nice to her, he wants to sleep with her. Chase has his own issues with pestering Cameron toward the beginning of the series, which is bad enough. But after 6 seasons, you'd expect the writers to grow from this trope. Yet on top of her endless uncomfortable romantic overtures, fans have to endure creepy daydreams where she hooks up with the object of her fantasy. Like many ill-advised character additions, Ashley Seaver is a victim of circumstances on Criminal Minds. When Rachel Nichols joined the show as Seaver in season 6, she only stayed for 13 episodes. Her character's addition came after fan-favorite actors A.J. Cook and Paget Brewster were cut from the show over rumored budget cuts. However, Brewster cleared up that rumor in an interview with the AV Club, saying, "Oh, yeah, that wasn't budget cuts. CBS had just called Ed Bernero and said, 'I want new women.' So we were fired. The fans were upset." It's unsurprising that after all of that, fans wouldn't exactly welcome their replacement with open arms. Eventually, the show brought back both Cook and Brewster. When it comes to describing Seaver, the word useless seems to come up a lot while describing her. That being said, a lot of the fan outrage has more to do with the internal circumstances than the actual character, who admittedly has an intriguing backstory. There's nothing quite like a hated love interest to get in the middle of a fan-favorite pairing. In season 4 of Friends, Ross's future wife, Emily, comes into the mix after Ross and Rachel's breakup. In true Ross fashion, he rushes too fast into a long-distance relationship with the British woman. Granted, Ross and Rachel are arguably one of the most toxic TV couples of all time, but that didn't stop the ship from sailing into rough seas. It's abundantly clear to everyone, including Emily, that Ross isn't over Rachel. Instead of breaking up with him, Emily gets incredibly controlling over Ross's friendship with Rachel, and things eventually come to a head during their hastily planned wedding ceremony.
Aye, Ross.
Aye, Ross.
Take thee, Emily.
Take thee, Rachel.
Now, that would be enough for most reasonable people to call off a wedding with someone they hardly even know. Instead, Emily goes through with it, demanding that Ross cut all ties with Rachel. Unsurprisingly, the Ross-Emily relationship isn't long for this world. Ross deserves more blame in this than Emily, but she really should have demonstrated some self-respect and kicked Ross to the curb before it got to this point. Cousin Oliver joins the Brady Bunch in its 5th and final season, and many fans pin the cancellation blame on him. In reality, the series would have likely ended either way, thanks to low ratings. If bringing Oliver into the mix was intended to spike viewership, the plan did not pan out. Though Oliver was only in the show for 6 episodes before the Brady Bunch met its demise, his appearance led to the coining of the phrase Cousin Oliver syndrome, which describes the addition of a young character in a TV show to shake things up. Of course, the clumsy attempt to add in random children didn't stop there, and still shows up occasionally on modern shows. By episode 6 of the original Gossip Girl, the series had already amassed a passionate fanbase. It doesn't hurt that the CW show is one of the more successful book-to-TV show adaptations either. However, fans' instant hatred of Vanessa might actually have something to do with her being equally insufferable in the books. The great thing about Gossip Girl is that fans are actually supposed to hate all of the characters at some point throughout the show. Par for the course when it comes to a series that opens a curtain to a bunch of entitled, spoiled teenage brats. However, Vanessa paints herself as a martyr, and she's anything but. Vanessa spends her days on the show sticking her nose up at the entitlement of those around her, while seeking the same privileges, playing manipulative mind games and ruining people's lives, all while patting herself on the back for being a good person. At the end of the day, most of the Gossip Girl characters realize how awful they can be. Vanessa, by contrast, is the biggest hypocrite and drama instigator in the show, and pretends to reject the elitism and cruelty of high society all the while.